fun.
Okay.
I don't know why. Oh.
But that's actually anyone watching us on Facebook. Is it worth effort?
Yeah, actually, there are more people watching on Facebook than.
I think so. Yeah. So let me just grab that key real quick.
Yeah.
Come on.
Cool mug.
Cool mag. Yeah.
Gone. Come on.
It's the pressure coding. It's going to kill you one day.
Oh, jeez. Not good. Okay, almost there.
I'm hearing a bit of echo from the previous conversation.
I'm trying to grab the... I don't know, the key. The key is gone.
You hear an echo, you said?
Yeah, I'm hearing previous voices. I don't know.
Are you watching?
Maybe you watch it somewhere and we are live.
Oh shit! Maybe I'm watching it somewhere. I think it's on YouTube.
Maybe.
So
Okay, hang on.
we are live on YouTube.
Yeah, we're live on YouTube. Yeah.
Wait, it's not letting me on
welcome.
Facebook. Yeah, apparently. Okay.
Behind the screen.
It's all black though. Hang on. Let's just start the.
So he's muted like with intention?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
by mistake?
Okay, so we should be on YouTube, and yeah, if we're not on Facebook Live right now, I don't know what else I can do aside from restarting the computer and.
No, I think we can. I think you can only go on YouTube, and let's post a link on Facebook. And on YouTube, can you? Is the sound going through?
Yeah, sound should be going through now. So
Mhm.
if you guys want to check that real quick.
Okay.
But the stream looks
yeah,
good.
it seems that it's okay. It's okay on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going through.
Jeez.
Okay, so let me just. Okay, so we can start a new TROM-Cast. This time only on YouTube because, well, Facebook doesn't let us stream. So let's post a link on Facebook just so that people know that we are. If any of you can post on the live stream.
I'll get it. I'll get it.
Okay, and after you post, we can start the mission.
Almost there.
Okay, so we can start actually, because whatever. So in this TROM-Cast, we are going to discuss about social pressure. And if you want to join the TROM-Cast, you can go to tromsci.com/live, and we post a GC there. Anyone can join. And yeah, we stream usually on Facebook and on YouTube. This time it doesn't work on Facebook, so we're going to stream only on YouTube. And yeah, social pressure. It's Sophie chose the subject, so why don't you start?
Yeah, I was
Put the pressure on you?
that one. I was expecting that one.
You are prepared.
No, I was just thinking about it, so that's maybe stupid. No, but the reason why I was thinking about it is because it's been a subject that's been a lot like active in my life, I guess, or present in my life. Also being with Seb and everything, we're coming from very different cultures, so you suddenly realize all these different pressures from different places and people, and it's a very funny thing because I come from Denmark, and everyone believes that it's perfect and everyone is so happy and equal and rainbows and everything. But there's also a backside to the coin, kind of, and there's a lot of social pressure. There's an expectation of everyone being like conforming to the same kind of norm and way of being and dressing and doing things. So that's why I thought of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also because probably
yeah, sure.
we all know a little bit about it and have experienced it in one way or the other. That was also another thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's even someone, I think Roma, found a video, and it was about. We will show you the video because it's a bit difficult to explain the stupidity. Hi Roma. Hey, so we have someone new today, Roma.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
He's helping with Trom-Jaro. So you know, it's just another great human being who joined Trom for the past weeks or so. And yeah,
you're so kind.
That's my mission here, to say that to everyone.
Yeah, I know.
No, but he's a great guy. He helps with Trom-Jaro. And by the way, just a little bit of update. We will probably release Trom-Jaro next week or so. And yeah, just keep an eye on that because we work on it. And we were talking about social pressure. And I was saying that you, Roma, I think you shared that video with the guy who was talking.
I found it occasionally yesterday.
Yeah, it's whenever Cody has some time.
Okay, we're good. Got it.
We can like just put that video so people can see it, because it's a crazy video. It's a short video, like a minute long, and yeah, let's watch it and then we can comment if you can put it. Let us know, and it's ending.
This is according to Oxfam. Of the world's 85 richest people, is equal to the 3.5 billion poorest people.
It's fantastic. And this is a great thing because it inspires everybody, gets the motivation to look up to the 1% and say, I want to become one of those people. I'm going to fight hard to get up to the top. This is fantastic news, and of course I applaud it. What can be wrong with this?
Really?
Yes, really.
So somebody living on
I celebrate
$1
capitalism.
a day in Africa is getting up in the morning and saying, I'm going to be Bill Gates.
That's the motivation everybody
Only thing
needs.
between me and
I'm
that
not
guy
against
is
charity.
motivation. I just need to pull up my socks.
I am not.
Wait, I don't have socks.
Look, don't tell me that you want to redistribute wealth again. That's never going to happen. Okay?
You know what? You take a simple stat like this, which is neither good nor bad. It's just a fact.
It's a celebratory stat. I'm very excited about it. I'm wonderful to see
What
it
the
happen.
fuck?
I tell kids every day, if you... What's wrong with this?
Up at a cocktail party.
No, Amanda, what's wrong with this statement?
One possible response
If
to
you
it.
work hard, you might be stinking rich
We're talking
one day.
about people in extreme abject poverty. That's how you get $3.5 billion.
No, we're not. You were just talking
in
about
this
really
category.
rich people.
No. Okay. I'm going to tell you later what you should say to this. Coming up after.
So yeah.
So it's ending? Ended?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a wonderful video to see how basically the mentality is in this world and the pressure that is in this world. Like, so what that you are poor? Can't you just work your way out and become the next billionaire? You know? So to me, I saw that video several years ago. I was like, how can you go on TV and say such things? And our discussion a little bit there was that even poor people, some poor people have this mentality. You know, it's not only rich people that have this mentality. Some poor people say that, yeah, I think it's my fault. I should work more, you know, if I want to achieve something. So what do you guys think? Awesome video, huh? Great one.
It's amazing video. I've missed that one, but it's crazy. Yeah, how these people justified this 85 multi-billionaires. And the thing I want to mention is such ideas as law of attraction, and which is like highly broadcasted by the movie The Secret and stuff like that, really penetrate this idea that, you know, you have to think and you will achieve whatever you want. And but it's certainly not working for people in Africa and India and all other just 3.5 billions others. So this makes it like such a bullshit. The system is built and so that it benefits only a fraction of the people. And mainly it's because they were first at something, first, to conquer some lands, first to develop some new technologies and then to take advantage of that. So, yeah. And going back to video, yeah, of course, it's like social pressure. It's normal to be filthy rich and just don't care about billions of other people. It's normal. We all want to be, like that. It's just crazy.
It's just a way, because how else are you supposed to keep people enslaved and keep them coming to work unless they didn't truly believe, that you're working your way out of this situation. If people had the mindset like we do, they wouldn't show up to work anymore. They wouldn't participate in the system because they know it's all bullshit and we don't need it. So as long as, especially poor people, because they make up the majority and they're the ones that are the working class, as long as they have that mindset, then, the system will keep going until, ecological destruction takes place. But I think that's the main thing. But yeah, there are so many people that think that they can control things, like you're saying, Dima, with their thoughts. It's really disheartening. But
yeah, but it's not only people. We have different mentality, different values, but still it doesn't, cancel our need to go to prostitute over the money to earn a living, to survive. So even though if the majority of the world will, share like similar beliefs that we have, it still won't change the system. So, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Chaos, definitely. I think there's going to be a lot more chaos first before we can rebuild, if that's an option. But
yeah, probably.
not only like a mental pressure, it's also like a situational pressure. Because let's say I'm thinking like that, and I'm like, oh no, fuck those like poor mentalities and primitive values. But if I have nothing to eat, and if I have to pay like my rent and so forth, I feel that pressure, from the society itself to do something about my situation. And then I will bump into such people, and I will feel the pressure to do the way that they say, because they are my bosses if I'm getting hired somewhere. And this social pressure is not only, from like the way that you dress and the way that you talk. It's also social pressure coming from the environment itself, this one of trade. And you will feel that pressure to do something about the situation, because you are put in this game and you have no other choice.
Yeah, of course. As long as our heroes, such as Steve Jobs, which is like penetrate here as a god, and people really strive to be, filthy rich like him. And but what it cost him, to build such mega corporation. So how many slaves he had, how many thousands or maybe millions of people were enslaved basically and worked for like nothing. Kids and in hazard environments and stuff like that. But still, our culture, forces us to, to kind of take him as a role model. It's okay. Yeah, he working hard. He thinks in the right way. He earned his living, and everyone should be like him.
Because every media in the society is portraying some role models for kids, even for little kids. Like, this is how girls should end up in this society. That's what success is all about. And of course, that is not like someone puts a pressure on you like directly, but very in this society. Because this is what you see. And if you are different from that norm, or if you don't want to achieve that, or if you don't achieve that, then in your like mind, you are a failure. That's a social pressure that it's indirectly. It's not like someone has to tell you, you are a loser, you did nothing in this world. No. It works very well just by presenting what it's the success story in this world.
Because if the brainwashing is good enough, it's you who gonna tell yourself in your mind these words. It's you who follow the rules, because of the social pressure. Yeah, like as you said, no, like maybe nobody like directly won't point anything like towards you like directly in personal, but you will have this in your mind. You may born in a country where, let's say, alcohol is prohibited, or other way around, in a country where everyone drinks, and depending on your behavior and your values, you will feel bad. I mean, if you want to drink or don't want to drink, depending on your place, you will be kind of outcast. And therefore, this social pressure will maybe it will be more harder for you to find a friends, or other guys will look at you as a weirdo. And it's just a small thing, but each country have this kind of brainwashing propaganda, like patriotism or church and believing in religion. And like exactly, nobody maybe ever in your life point anything like that directly to you, but you have this in your mind, and it's.
I think most people start drinking or using drugs because of social pressure. It's not like beer is this such a magical portion that is so tasty and it's like, fuck, man. It's just social pressure, and we all have been through that. And I know that I've almost never drank alcohol, and I was like under this pressure that everyone was like, why don't you drink alcohol? Like, why? And I was like, I don't like it. But why don't you like it? Why don't you drink? Why? And it was such a it's a stressful situation for me, and most people don't have maybe the tools to resist that kind of pressure, and they will go and drink, and they will go and do drugs and so forth. And school itself, it's an environment where social pressure is so huge, peer pressure there to be like the others, because if you're not like the others, you're kind of a loser.
I mean, I think as far as like alcohol and drugs are concerned, the video Seb made covers it really well. I think it's a little bit deeper than just social pressure alone. The social pressure does have a large effect, but even just like adults, like driving through wealthy neighborhoods, all the houses look the same, all the yard, like it's like the competition of trying to be the same and fit in. I mean, it's just everywhere you go, the way people dress, the way they talk, the way they behave. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's deeply ingrained, especially like if you want to talk about someone like me who's not married or has children and I'm the age that I am, people pity me. Like, it's like, what is wrong with you? But it's like, it's a choice. I don't want, I never will. Like, you know, my family's just now starting to deal with that. And it's like, I don't know what else to tell them. Like, it's not going to happen. But I mean, there's just so many pressures to do specific things. And the people that put the pressures on you don't even know, they don't even understand where those ideas come from within themselves. Like, they don't even realize, like, these ideas have been implanted in their heads, you know.
Yeah, the idea of family especially was one I just never kind of questioned. And then yeah, if you're in one of those families where it's like, you know, they like the big families, and it's like if you run by that, you're not gonna have children, and like a family like that, it's like you're completely ostracized almost. Like, what about my grandchildren? Or, you know, it's an investment almost, and that they want you to keep continuing what they've decided they wanted to do.
And I'll say, what about climate change? And then they say, let's change the subject. Talk about the future.
I want to ask Roma, like, what do you think are one of the most like pressurizing social pressures that you see? You are from Russia, so because I see that what Jen was talking about, it's also present pretty much everywhere. Like, girls are like, why don't you marry? Why don't you have children? It doesn't matter if it's USA or Russia or Europe and so forth. And what kind of social pressures do you feel there that they are so ingrained into that culture?
Oh, well, probably it's not a big difference here in Russia. Most of the things you guys discussed is like take place here too, but maybe the big one, and maybe one of the things I personally suffered for like maybe years back. It's like most of the people here and like very traditional. It's a lot of the things that took place in the Soviet Union and so on, and every idea is about the family in case. So like what else? Probably that you need a job. You like when you go to the plant and spend all day on the plant with your, I don't know, device, and then back to home. It's like people who work with hands. It's better people than others. They have a privileged place in this world or something like that. It's like very similar that guys that communists are saying always, like that labor class, it's all that we need in this world. And it's the main pressure we have here is like when we went into the new world, the world of the like globalization of with the other countries and so on. The first thing we need to decide for us is how to proceed with all of that, how to follow our life to the next step. Because from on the one hand, it's like you need to find, create a family, build a house. I don't know, spend a lot of time with raising your child. And so on. On the other hand, it's a new world, it's new capabilities, it's new things to do. It's not actually gives you only one direction with all of that. You can choose whatever you want. And what from I see, the people just can't decide what's better for them, and of course it's a lot of the pressure of society pressure for that, because you see on your you look on your parents and like, come on, I need everything that they have, like family and so on. But on the other hand, it's huge, I don't know, things to do in the world. I want to travel. I want to, I don't know, do a lot of stuff, like maybe go in space or something like that. So the main pressures here is just like a traditional family, traditional living style, or like be free. Because for me, it was like a big deal all the time. When I have like nice idea in my head, always I need always to decide how it's better in the meaning of how it will affect my family and so on. And
They're very
this is the
traditional
right choice.
there, right? It's
Yeah.
the tradition there is like almost like similar to other countries, like even Romania, where I'm from. They are very traditional about their shit, and they're like, I think most people get married because of the social pressure. I'm not sure if they
Yeah.
may really want that, but it's like, okay, what's the time? Oh, it's too late. It's like I'm almost 30. Let's get married. Let's have a kid. And this is such a fucked up way of thinking, because it's not like you are prepared to do that, but with social pressure you have to do it. And there are so many people who have children because of social pressure who have absolutely no fucking idea how to raise a human being. Like they don't even like, they are, the mentality that I've seen with so many people is that mentality that they had in high school. The same kind of mentality, like, oh, go like to bet on sports, to watch all kind of shitty crazy things, to just like this kind of mentality, like a teenager, but they have children, and they take the children, and because of another social pressure, they put the kid into a kindergarten and then school, and they do whatever the others are pushing them to do. It's always a push from the society. It's always a push. It's almost like people don't even have their own thoughts and their own views about the world and what they have to do. It's almost never like that.
But then there is not only social pressure, but also economical pressure when they have to abandon their kids and go to work and earn money.
Sure, but the acceptance.
There's pressure from all sides of our wonderful society.
I heard a funny quote that was, traditions are just peer pressure from dead people. Made me laugh.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, tradition is another huge topic. It's really outdated set of rules, which often means nothing or completely gibberish or makes no any sense at all. Other interesting thing about social pressure is how you forced to adapt your answers to some not really comfortable questions. Let's say if we'll take the same question about alcohol, for example. I am a metal musician, and metal musicians have to drink and get wasted every night, every gig they play. And people come to me and always ask, okay, let's drink together and stuff. And for me, with the time, I found easier to answer them, oh no, I'm driving, I cannot drink. Then they get, okay. And before I was trying to explain them, no, I don't drink. And they're like, okay, do you experience some health problems, or why don't play? Why don't you drink? Do you have a liver problem so you cannot drink anymore? That was quite common question. But you start to explain, that's my free choice. I decide not to drink because it's bad for your brain cells, and therefore I don't like to be dizzy and stuff. And they look at you like a weirdo, and then comes this disconnection with this person. And then he think of a few crazy things, and he don't want to eventually to speak with you, and you find yourself kind of in loser situation. And then with the time, you just adapt your answers how this person will perceive that. And that's interesting. I'm sure you guys have experienced the same situation many times when you just adapt. You just choose the answer which this person can accept. And I think it's also quite a strong social pressure.
Absolutely, because it's easier to just something like I can drink because I drive, or I just not I take a pills or something like that, because I did experience like
in Russia it's huge, because I'm also Russian.
It's like practically it's like every
You're
evening.
You're not man if you're not.
Yeah, that's true. You're just not a real man. You are just like a child while you not drink or something like that. But it's very interesting that when you try to explain your, as you say, Dima, if you try to explain your point here that you like don't drink because of that thing, I got an experience like people just switching to other stuff. Like you telling them your point, but the people like, oh, it's some boring stuff. I just switch into something else, and that's it. So basically, you're right here. So I agree that we just need to adapt to this thing. Because of it's easy to say something like people want to hear or something like that. Because when you try to explain this, only a small count of people just I don't know, patient enough to listen you to the end and like.
Imagine my pain because I have no driving license, so I could not use. I tried a few times to use that.
Oh,
I was like,
you are doomed.
I'm in the car. They were like, what? You don't have a driving license? I was like, are you sure?
Problem is your liver. And
you can survive in Russia. I'm sorry.
It's funny how some excuses go and some don't. Like some are accepted as excuses and some are not.
Yeah.
I think it has also something to do with whether when they ask whether the answer is going to be something where they have to think about their own choices in regard to these things. Because if you say, oh, I don't, it's not healthy, then they're going to be like, well, then I'm doing an unhealthy thing then. Like, so I think it's also whether it kind of forces people to think about what they're doing is like healthy for themselves, maybe.
But I'm really interested. But sorry, Jenna, quickly. I'm really interested. What do you guys think about? Should we adapt our answers, or should we try to explain? Because sometimes I really want to explain, but then I understand it's no point, and I just whatever, just adapt my answer.
I think it just
Depends
depends
how
on
much trouble you want to get into.
Exactly. If you know it's going to cause a conflict, sometimes it's better just to say the easy thing. Because why? There's no point in fighting with these people. If they have, some people are so lost in their thoughts, they don't even. Like, I agree with you. It's easier just to say like I'm sick or make up some lie, because if I say, oh, I'd rather get up and run in the morning or get up early or I want to go home and read or I want to be able to use my brain, they're going to be like, what do you think, you're better than me? You think you like when I tell people I don't watch television, I get the craziest responses. People think like I'm a snob, but I genuinely don't like television. Like, I don't see the point in it. And I just hate when people start asking me if I watch a television show, because I know what the next response is going to be is like, oh, you think you're better than me. It's like, I don't think that at all. I just don't like television.
So what do you all think about peer pressure for something that might be beneficial for our health or our planet? Like, there's a lot of circumstances, a lot of different examples, but I think maybe even sharing about our vision of a trade-free world, sometimes, I'm just kind of thinking, or vegan eating, vegan diets, or not using plastic and things like that. Sometimes we might use peer pressure and social pressure to get those things done for the good of the whole or something like that.
I mean, we put the pressure on Cody and he moved from Windows to now it's on Dromjaro, so it's a positive. But I wrote an article on my blog about social pressure, and it's true. That's what I wanted to actually discuss about, because this social pressure to me is like, I compared it with the dark matter. If you look in the universe, you look at a galaxy. That galaxy doesn't hold all of this stuff together unless it's a thing called the dark matter. No one knows what it is, but it's present everywhere, and it keeps things in place. And I think social pressure is the same. It's not something that you can properly define, but it's something that keeps any society, for better or for worse, together. Because that's why you don't dress in a pink dress like a guy and you go into any city, because you feel like, oh, no one will arrest you, but you feel that social pressure. And this is the way that you talk, the way that you dress, the way that you maybe think sometimes. And it's a huge, I think it's such a huge and massive force that we have to admit that it depends. It can be good, it can be bad, but it's necessary. And it will always be there. Doesn't matter. The social pressure will always be there in one way or another. Like you said, use it for good. Like if most people will start to push this idea of it's not good to eat meat and you blame people, you'll have an effect on some people. It depends with the society. Maybe you'll have a bigger effect or a smaller effect. Depends what the forces are. But the social pressure itself is not a good or a bad thing, I think. It depends on the society entirely. That's why you don't see people cursing at you on the street just like randomly, because they will feel like it's not a good thing to do. Why don't you walk backwards, like slowly, like that, backwards in a city? You'll bother everyone. People will say something to you. You will feel pressure.
Not really. It depends on the place. Like I've lived in London for 4 years, and I've seen such weird stuff. Like really, like normal girl just standing next to the bus stop or people, and she just put out her skirt and start peeing there, and it's like, and nobody like give a damn, it was okay. And let's say in Germany also people are quite tolerable. You can do pretty much you want, and it depends on society. And I think like social pressure, it quite often goes with economical pressure also, and with a state of some kind of applied rules of what can be done and not. And the more educated people, the less pressure they would have, because the more educated you, the more open-minded you, the more you understand the needs and values of other people, the less you care about them, And the more narrow-minded you are, the more you try to follow the rules, try to follow the tradition. That's where the pressure comes from.
It depends on your definition of educated too, because you can have people that are quote unquote educated as far as the system's concerned. They've gone through all these years of college, but
of course not this education.
All these social pressures, like get married and have children and have a big house and have 2 cars and have a certain type of job and wear this type of clothing. But I think really what it boils down to is we're social creatures. So as Tia is saying, the pressure will always be there because we need the social aspect. So if we don't fit in and we have, we're not getting that social aspect met, we're going to do what needs to be done to get that fulfilled. I mean, we need that just as much as we need clean air and water and food and shelter, So it is going to be there. I just think that this culture, the dominant culture that exists is teaching us so many crazy things that until that changes, we've got a big problem.
I think no one taught us how to deal with being uncomfortable. Like I talked in a TROM documentary about this mental state of homeostasis. Like homeostasis is like you are used to something, and to change into something else mentally, it's always going to be uncomfortable for most people. At least it'll be uncomfortable. Even if you try to like go jogging every day starting tomorrow, it is going to be like it's still a mental thing. Like you have to, because you get used to something. If you get used to sitting in front of your computer all day long, and then you change that into something else and to change your behavior, you go to some changes, even physical changes. You have to maybe wake up earlier and so forth. So I think when someone in your environment changes, like you said, they don't accept an answer like I don't drink because it's not healthy. You put them, you try to change them as well by accepting you. If they accept you, they will have to change something in the way that they understand this entire situation. So you put them in a very uncomfortable situation. They are like, I'm not going to accept now that drinking is not healthy because I drink as well. So that may push me to change my attitude towards drinking or towards smoking. So it's this kind of discomfort that we have to get used to. Maybe it should be like taught in some smart future in schools to kids, to be like, you know, change is not that bad, and to adapt to new ways of thinking, because your parents are pushing the same kind of old ideas into you because they never changed. They have the same kind of mentality and they push it to other people. And if you are a kid who is abnormal like I am, then your parents will feel very, very uncomfortable. And you have to understand that, because if they accept you, they have to change a little bit as well to accept that, okay, my kid doesn't want to get married, is not religious, is not this, is not like that. So it's a problem of change.
That's exactly what I said. The more open-minded and educated, and Jen pointing out what you mean by educated, of course, like not in the sense of finish 12th grade in school, but like generally, you know, you're just open-minded and you perceive that reality is different. It's the way you think, it's only your ideas, and each person thinks differently. You wouldn't care, you wouldn't feel so much pressure towards yourself and towards other people as well, because you understand that everyone has different needs, you know, and everyone is kind of different in a way. And that's also this social and economical pressure, which makes us all the same. And this narrow-mindedness, you know, when the people or families from generation to generation living the same life, you know, following the same tradition, and of course, nothing gonna change. Yes, Ep, you wanted to join?
No, I was just gonna agree with you that I would say the more simplistic a culture is, the greater the cultural pressure in that regard, because they are not exposed to other things. If a person has a greater understanding of things, they might be more accepted or acceptable when a new idea pops up, or when someone is now doing something out of the norm. And I would also say that in today's system, social pressure has a lot to do with like your dependency, economic dependency on your family or on the system or whatever. Because if you're more independent economically within the system, you can say a little bit more fuck you to certain things. If you are more dependent on your family or whatever, and someone, you can't do anything. You're still forced to go. If you're living at home with your parents and you don't want to go to school or whatever, they will still force you, and so on. So the greater your dependency and the more simplistic the culture, I would say the harder it is for you to do what you want to do, and the greater the social pressure will be.
100%. And it's also this, the trait also is like the little bit, you could say monetary on one end, but intangible in another end, in the way that, if you promise to get married, then maybe we'll help you with your school tuition, you know? Like these like transactions you almost have like culturally.
Even the society, if you get married, you can get some advantages from the state. Like, because you also like even from the other person, because you share the spendings, the monthly spendings. Like if you are alone in today's world, to rent an apartment, for example, is very expensive, because no one cares that you are one human being renting that apartment. But if you are two people, now you split the rent, and there are many other advantages, of course. Like you have kids. I know that here in Spain they give all kinds of monthly payments to people from Morocco who come here and have kids. For the kids, you know, and they, oh my God, I mean, I've never seen some people from Morocco without 3, 4, 5, 6 kids. I'm sure it's an incentive. It's impossible not to be an incentive, you know, like it's a huge incentive as well.
Yeah, so you see, it's as Seb pointed out, and I also said this earlier, it's going bound together, social and economical pressure. And then it's all together creating our society and creating this cage for us, you know, and these walls and borders. And we're dependent, and if we want to have some benefits or somehow to survive, we have to adapt. And that's actually, you can call it as a trait also from all perspectives.
Yeah. And I would say that's the reason why most people are not able to escape from their families, or there's a difficult transition, because most start off being very financially or economically dependent in most places across the world, from my experience also in the Middle East or wherever. And not only can't you escape the family, you can't escape the traditions or the religion and so forth. And then you're forced, because you also don't know anything else. and how to cope on your own, so forth. And the state reinforces this concept of the family as well, because then, or the entire structure, so you don't necessarily question other things, and you just fall back on your immediate family.
But I mean, even if you question, I mean, we question everything, but still we're dependent on money.
Exactly.
We have to earn money. There are some of us, collecting dog shit and then do some weird stuff.
What are you talking about?
Who does that?
And I would say that.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No offense. It's
No, it's amazing. It's phenomenal. But I will say, there is even direct pressure. Like I had to cut ties with a friend because he was like the physical embodiment of social pressure. Like I think he had some sort of social switch that was not enabled, so he could say there was like no filter for this person, so he could basically just tell you what he thinks, and just got to a destructive point, and like I was a welfare bum and like stuff like this, and to him he's not really doing anything, he's just that's his whole mindset. Like he can't even think about, I've tried to run TROM or even like trade free by him, and it's just like it just completely can't even hit anything in the brain that he can't attach a value to that. It's like just completely misses him entirely. And that there's these people out there that just it almost reminded me of that O'Leary clip we watched, where it's just like, yeah, of course it's their fault. What, they could be stupid rich if they just wanted to, if they just really wanted it. And it's like, it just like can't even reason with the person, can't reason with unreasonable people. But yeah, that there is like that direct pressure, but I think the scarier part is that I can see a direct pressure being applied to me and the invisible force pushing it, but he is not aware of that invisible force pushing him to be the way he is. And I think that's the most kind of egregious part of the invisible social pressures we kind of are dealing with today.
Again, it's just like the economic survival, because like even talking with my grandmother the other day, she literally said, basically what that video was saying, like, it's their own fault. They're poor. It's their own fault. They need to get over it. But really, and I think, and I'm like, my mind's just like, my head's exploding because she grew up really, really poor. So I just can't even imagine a person that's been through that. And anyway, but the way I look at it is that these people are trying to protect their assets and what they've accumulated as far as wealth and material, and in their minds, like, oh, if somebody needs something, then that's going to take away from me, because like the values that she's been taught is in order to be successful and happy, you need all this material wealth, and it's just a constant like trying to fill this empty void of material things, and it's just such a sickness. The only way I can describe it is a sickness.
It's saying that there are many brave men after the war is over, because that's how it happens to such people. Some people are poor, and then they do something, they enslave themselves, and then now they have some stuff. They are like the middle class and so forth, and now they look at the other poor people and say, okay, you should walk out. But when you are poor, you probably didn't think that. Sometimes you will say that to fuck this society. But now that you see that you have something that you own and you have a place in this society, I think you take ownership over that, and you take proud. You become proud of what you have accumulated, like you said with your grandma. Maybe that's what happens, I think that's an effect. And it's also the positive aspect of social pressure, because, for example, when I came here in Spain, because I seen a little garbage on the streets. In Romania, I will like eat a chocolate or something, I will throw it like on the streets, because it's like everywhere. It was, at least when I was living there, I didn't care. But because here I didn't see that at all, I felt a lot of social pressure to just throw that thing into the garbage bin, because it was cleaner. And I think there are all kinds of social experiments like that, when they, for example, I know an experiment when it was in a city. It was a building that was like almost collapsing, and kids were playing in that building and shit like that. And they rebuilt that building and painted it white, and then realize that kids don't play around that building with a football ball or something like that because they were afraid to like make it dirty, to be like the first one to make that building dirty. It was like a social pressure. But when that building was crap, no one gave a crap about that, because it was already like a fucked up building. And I think it's very important to recognize that it's a force that can be used for good or for bad depending on the society we live in.
But maybe if we take this example of the rubbish on the streets, what if the companies responsible for this rubbish, the massive companies who create such enormous packaging, if they would create, let's say, at least biodegradable packaging or less packaging or products without packaging so that we don't need to deal with rubbish, then there would be no such social pressure. If those walls would have such paint so you cannot dirt, them, then we also wouldn't have such social pressure.
About why the company itself is putting that packaging on there. It's because they're pressured to compete against the other company to stand out in a different way. Like, you got to think, why would somebody put a plastic wrapper on a banana?
Yeah, but sure. Of course. They want to sell more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I would say social
So we go back to roots to our favorite topic, trade. If we wouldn't have it, maybe we wouldn't have so much social pressures as well. I mean, that's the way I see, because technology can solve, I don't know, a lot of these social pressures.
Completely, and the attention within social pressure today is all put on the individual, and the individual is constantly blamed, as you say, Jen, and people who are given attention within the system are like this guy who's on this interview that we just saw, defending, market capitalism and saying this is a victory for all of us and this is like the way it should be. And the people who are given a voice within the society are always people who are defending the system and saying that everybody should just pull themselves up by their bootstraps and it's all, people are too lazy and people don't want to do this and that. Rather than looking at the structure or looking at why are people doing that, and maybe it's not the individual's fault, maybe the pressure should be put on the system and think, okay, maybe we should focus and the attention should go there, not on the individual but on the cause, and I think that's where most of the sickness goes.
Yeah, exactly, because as an individual you cannot influence anything except your life and few people around you, and that's it. And then the funny thing, going back to this super cool video, that probably those 3.5 billion people are working for these 85 millionaires.
You could not be a billionaire without those slaves. So
of course.
What is he talking about? Does he want a world where everyone is a billionaire? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you see, because he's in such a privileged position, it's much easier for him to say that. To be like, okay, you have to work to do all of that. And that's what bothers me, because this idea penetrates into the minds of slaves, and they believe the same shit. That's what bothers me the most, because I don't expect much from this guy. Of course he thinks like that. That's why he is a billionaire, But those poor fucks who are enslaved every day, to think that, I mean, this is like, is a parallel here with religion, when they say that, if you do bad things, you go into hell. And if you could do good things, doesn't matter if you are poor, you go. It's the same kind of story that you put on poor people. I've seen so many poor people who are like, they go and give money to churches because they think that they will get a nice place after they die, because they buy the same kind of bullshit from the others. And when you look at, for example, in Romania, is this fucked up thing where priests are so fucking rich, they are full of gold and everything, and those poor people, they go to those priests, kiss their hands and be like, they give money and like, what the fuck are you doing? You are so, it's a humiliating.
There's a perfect quote: slaves don't want to be free, slaves want to have their own slaves. That's pretty much sums up.
All right.
Well, that's another social pressure, if you think about it, because this guy has an image. He hosts a television show. He wears a suit and tie. He's on a fancy television set, and he has all these viewers. And so therefore, whatever he's saying must be true, because he has this status in society that gives him this power to tell people what to think. And I tune in every week just to hear what this guy's going to tell me to think. And then, there we go.
Yeah, we have to trust him because he's got a nice suit. It's like the same as doctors were advertise cigarettes and alcohol. We have to trust them and believe them. They've got doctor outfit. The same here, the same the politicians. That's why they dress like that. Wait.
But in a way, like someone like that, like stating that free will doesn't exist or not blaming the individual also devaluates his own journey in a way. So he then feels that all he worked for is worth nothing in a way, or he didn't earn it really. So he will never admit that, or never see it ever, probably.
Yeah, of course, he will find excuses.
Yeah, and people are, I would say, a guy like him or whoever is faced with social pressure and submits to it is rewarded to submit to the social pressure. So the more you kind of like submit to the system and, you know, participate within the market and so forth, the more you're rewarded. The more you don't submit and revolt against the pressure of, you know, getting a job or of going to university, getting a family and so on, the more you're excluded. So that's, of course, not positively reinforced at all. And that creates this, of course, tricky situation for many people.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Seb. It's the same, like I can drive a parallel here with volunteering. Actually, today in a money-based society, when you volunteer, you're kind of hurting yourself because, you know, you might work and, you know, earn money during this time while you do some stuff for free. So basically, you're kind of hurting yourself.
Yeah, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Exactly.
Kind
I
of,
think
yeah,
that was
kind
that video with this guy who was on TEDx, also explaining the trade-free concept to some extent. He was mentioning that example as well with the volunteering. Yeah, and completely, that's not at all pushed.
Yeah, so you see, that's like, again, economical pressure for you. Because a lot of people would love to go volunteer, but they cannot afford it, actually. You know?
And I think there's also a difference between like pressure and motivation, because like volunteering can be super motivation. Like it can give you a lot of drive and so on because you're interacting with other people. Like as we said, you know, we're social animals and so on. But if you're pressured, it's like you're put under circumstances where you're either dependent or you're dealing with a culture that is not necessarily understanding of you. And you're then a little bit forced. It's a bit of a, I mean, the terminology implies like a bit of force.
So I think that someone in the comments says that we are complaining too much, and what solutions do we suggest? So let me address that. So first of all, it's such a difficult thing not to complain about this world. I mean, if you want, I can give you a shit ton of statistics. I mean, read the origin of most problems. There are several thousand links and almost like 200 documentaries. If you really want to see complaining like on a greater scale, it's of course we have to complain, but we also mentioned that social pressure, it can be used for good or for bad. It depends on the society. In my mind, the less trades, the less the pressure, because for example, if I do something for you, if I make a website and I say it's trade free, I don't expect anything. Even if you like treat me badly, maybe I will accept that. I will whatever. If you are a Christian, I don't care. I will make the website for you. It's less pressure from you. You don't have to like wear certain clothes or behave in a certain way for me to make your website or to give you food. That's why it boils down to the same kind of problems. So the more trade-free stuff that you do, the less the pressure. So you can take anything. You can take healthcare, and if it's a trade-free healthcare, it's less pressure from you to engage with this healthcare system. Because if it's not, if I have to go to a shit ton of like, go there, go here, give your data, give your money, work, it's a lot of pressure on you to get this healthcare service. But if it's trade-free, it's less of a pressure because no one asks anything from you. So it boils down to such things almost all the time. So it's not only complaining, you know, we are stating something that it's clear. Like, what is the pressure between me and Wikipedia? I love Wikipedia or Linux. We are making from Java, okay? What is the pressure? No one asks anything from me. I didn't have to register to the Linux community, donate money. They don't take anything from me because it's this trade-free system. It's not a pressure on me to do our from Java in a specific way. I can do whatever the fuck I want. it's not a pressure, same with Wikipedia and other examples.
Solutions.
Yeah, I mean, we can the same fantasize about trade-free world, but I can see it's kind of similar of complaining about this world. We can do some small services and small stuff, but still, it's very hard to change something, to came up, not only speak about solution. Solution is clear, like at least for all of us here, it's like at least to try eliminate trade as much as possible. But then how to do it, yeah.
And I compare those people that say we're complaining to those like that say, oh, you don't want to drink alcohol. It's because they don't want to change their thought process and think about something bigger than just what's themselves. Some people don't really have much trouble getting access to resources, so therefore they don't really see it as a big problem. But exactly. You got all these people on the streets. You have, a large amount of people dying every day of curable diseases, children starving to death, all kinds of people starving to death. And when you look at the bigger picture, it's not even just complaining. It's like, how can that not bother you as a human being and see that that's going on? And in the grand scale, it does affect you. It does affect you whether you think so or not, so it's not just we're just sitting here complaining and we just want to get online and just, talk and jibber jabber. It's like we're actually concerned about our species.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Oh, sorry. You can go ahead. I was just going to say that the more alternatives you have, the less pressure you have. So, for example, if there's a system like TROM-Jaro, you can instead use that compared to whatever other operating system you have. If you're on a night out and you're like, okay, what am I going to do tonight? And the only thing you can do really is go to the club and get wasted, because that's what 99% of people do. But if there are other things within society that you can do, if you can, relate to people in another way, if you can go surfing or do fun activities or not drink and do other things, then those alternatives will override the social pressure because there's a greater variety. Or if people are more understanding and be like, whatever, you don't have to drink, or it's not that big of a deal. And if there are more trade-free services that people can access without there being any barriers, then the less pressure there is, and the more people can bounce away from those systems where you have to trade something in order to get it.
It's a cool point, but social pressure is so strong. Like, we have so many alternatives today. Yeah, the same what you mentioned, except instead of going each night and get wasted, yeah, you can do a lot of stuff even online and even for free. But still, like, what percentage of people doing it? What percentage of people leads alternative way of living? It's like tiny fraction. And why? Because like there's a social pressure. You have to have iPhone, you have to take a loan, you have to drink this whiskey, this martini, then you have to have this car and so on. So it's like the way what I realized during this conversation with you guys is that economical pressure and social pressure, there's like two together. If you kind of more economically independent, then maybe more like social pressure will influence you more. And then again, when you don't care about society and social pressure, then you might have really strong economical pressure. And it's like two monsters. Yeah. Or as what Theo said, two octopus, like two more octopus in our zoo.
I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like what came up during this conversation, and that's again, I don't think it's just we're complaining here. Like, I realize a few new things from it. That's already valuable, at least for me.
What I wanted to comment before on what you said, Jen, I agree a lot. Was also just that the culture that I live in is, I don't know, I meet this attitude a lot. Like, be a bit positive, smile a bit more, like, and I'm just like, well, show me something positive, you know what I mean? Like, show me a study of positive, like, development or something. I don't know, like, I don't know, it's very, I don't know if you know the Danish term hygge. Maybe you've heard it in the media. It's like this cozy indoor, like, candle, pillow, blanket type feeling, even though it's raining and there's a blizzard outside.
Oh,
And
it's
that's
such a
kind
complex one.
and that's
Means so
kind of
much.
symbolic for like the Danish mentality. I feel that everything is great. We don't know that someone is starving at the other side of the planet because we're great here, in our little bubble. So we don't care. So cheer up a bit. And like you also said, Jen, I just feel like that's like we're being realistic here and actually seeing the world as it is. We're not being delusional about it. And that's what I feel like these people are sometimes.
When I think I was reading in the origin of most problems is that we need to face those problems in order to solve them. We need to understand those problems inside and out. That's the only way we're going to truly solve them. And I think that's what we're trying to do here is really get to the root of it and understand it. And then, the solutions will come.
100%.
Yes, because what is the solution other than first educate people so that they have a much broader understanding of like other cultures and so forth, and change the structure of our trade-based society? I always said that we need education and infrastructure. Education and infrastructure. You cannot do one without the other. You cannot educate people but not provide an environment that those people can grow in, like from a mental perspective. The same way that you cannot change the society and expect somehow that people will change. You have to go in both directions here. And when people ask, okay, but and how? I mean, in a billion ways.
That last week also.
Yeah, don't get me started again because I have more to say.
I don't fucking know.
No one knows. No one knows. Yeah, so that's the kind of social pressure that I was like, because I didn't first understand this, that it doesn't matter if it's negative or positive, it's a force. I think that's what we have to understand, first of all. It's a force. It's even when you go to like a field like physics, there are some physicists who feel the social pressure of other physicists, and they work on some like equations and so forth, but could be shy or could be like to present them because they are afraid to not like say something that's completely stupid and inaccurate in that bubble of physics. So social pressure, it's everywhere. It doesn't matter where you look at. I think it's in our society, it's a lot in the negative spectrum because of these trades that we explained so far. But imagine a society where people feel the pressure to not waste, because that's how the entire structure of this society is. They have less opportunities to waste because of the way the products are made, and also because the mentality of other people. So that social pressure will keep people together to not waste, for example, or to not maybe eat meat or do other things. But you need the environment and the mentality.
Completely. Maybe just one thing to add as well is that within today's system, social pressure is strong because of trade based upon competition, and most values or whatever social interaction you have, it's always like with comparative values. So if you do a sport or whatever, it's like, oh, who's the faster runner, or who's the better player, or and all those kinds of things, or who is, when you meet another person, who's economically richer and so on, and then you have an advantage. So you're always constantly comparing, and thus create this conflict type zone. And the person then with the dominant, or in the dominant position, then puts the pressure on you, whether that's a coach or whether that's your boss or whatever. So it's all based on this hierarchy structure, and the person in a position of power is always the one that will be able to pressurize you more. So
I think also something that like kind of determines whether this force is going to be positive or negative is also whether the group that's kind of enforcing it is inclusive or like dividing kind of people. And I think when trade is involved, it's always dividing people a lot. Whereas if you feel like you're part of something, it's a positive force, I think, maybe. Because I think the person, for example, the example in the beginning with the guy who, like, with the drinking and stuff, when you're out, Dima, it's like, well, someone who is someone who's not thinking about that they're being influenced and they're just tagging along and they're always drinking and it's nice and they're part of something, it's a positive force for them. It's only a negative force once you divide people, kind of, and there's someone on the outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
What's up?
Well said. You said it very well.
Thanks.
I think even
yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, even social pressure around, like, there's like certain topics where, like, even if you bring them up or anything, it's like ooh, or like just like these off limits conversations, these uncomfortable truths we kind of all know in the world, but that are almost like immediately shut down the moment like we might encroach upon that territory. And it's like no, let's not look behind the curtain.
It's there, but don't say it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like let's not do anything about it. Let's just maybe it'll go away if we leave it alone.
Because in this world, everybody is used to to trades. Like, jobs, since humans existed on this planet, there were like some sort of jobs, or like you have to do this to get that. Everyone is so used to it, is so ingrained into our society and our mentality that, of course, when you bring this to people and say, maybe we can create a society without trade, they are like completely lost, because it's like you leave them in midair. They have nothing to stand on because they don't imagine any kind of such a world. So you will feel the social pressure because you know the reactions. So it's our projection, because you know how they will react. So you'll rather decide maybe not to mention that, or to mention it in a completely different way. It's the same kind of discussion with like drinking. Same here, applies everywhere basically. So you are trying to avoid that social pressure from them, because you don't want the reactions to be like, oh, come on, man, what the fuck are you talking about? This is such a dreamy kind of world, because if they start like that, they leave very little room for you to work with that. They already put a barrier. They showcase their view on the subject. It's quite hard to turn them around.
But should you try to get to them or not? Like for me, I really I quite often try to explain myself. It's very rarely when I give this fake answer. So just to get rid of them, only if I see there is no point at all to talk with this person. And yeah, 99% of the time when I start to, explain my real reasons or speak about trade and stuff, there's no point. Very rare, but sometimes it is like people are a little bit interested, and then maybe they'll come home and explore more, and maybe some of my words will, stay with them and it will change them. I don't know. So I'm interested, what's your experience, to go against this social pressure and really express the way you see the world, or not?
I think it just depends on the circumstances. I've had people get really mad at me and start shouting. In that case, I just stop.
Of course.
But I've also had, so when I used to live in Los Angeles, every time you come out of the grocery store, there are people that are asking for donations for different organizations like Save the Children or like UNICEF, or I don't know, like all the different organizations. And those people, I would always explain to them, I commend you for your efforts, and I think you're doing a really great thing for the world. However, until we get to the root of the problem, which is trade, these problems will continue to exist. And yeah, you may save 1 million children, but then there's going to be another 1 million children that still need help. And, some people are very receptive to that because they already kind of had that in the back of their mind that there are problems. And so they wouldn't listen to you. But I think writing is a really good way, because people can come to you as opposed to feeling like you're attacking them. Because that's what I come to realize with myself, is that people felt like I was attacking them personally. And so that's why they would react hostilely. And I think with writing, they can read it and they're listening to it in their own voice, and it comes off in a much more digestible way for them. Or like videos are a great way, but I don't think that we should we should stop by any means.
But in such situation, when person come to you with a question like, "Come on, John, why you don't have children?"
Those people are actually the best people because they're asking you the questions. And that's when I do find mobile phones very handy because I have pulled up TROM site and showed it to them, or I show them TROM newsfeed, and it's very easy just to quickly show them. And I've had several people in those situations come back to me a couple weeks later and bring up TROM on their own and say, "Oh yeah, I started watching that documentary. I didn't get all the way through it yet, but it is interesting. Thank you for showing that to me." Or they'll say, "I've been looking at that news feed and it is really good." So those people are truly the best ones to, because they are asking you the questions and they don't feel like you're attacking them. And even no matter how you're, I get really excited. I'm a very vomiting out the mouth sometimes, so it's easy for people to feel attacked with me. But even if you're talking in a calm way, and people just feel attacking their identity because this is just all they know. That's all they know. So
yeah, they're identifying with those ideas that you yourself maybe didn't question at one point, but now you're like, oh, okay, I question everything, whatever. So it's like it comes naturally to you, but then when applied to somebody else, it's like I encountered that on the weekend. Like I was explaining TROM, and then basically what it came down to was like the point that kind of ended the conversation was like somehow I was attacking the soldiers of World War II, and like her uncle fought in that war or something, and I'm just like just you're not able to like talk your way out of it because they're not willing to listen. Yeah. I went down in flames. I was just like, okay, this one's not going anywhere.
I too used. Sure.
Sorry, I was making joke.
Well, I too was. I used to like debate with people, and I couldn't like leave something unanswered. Like I heard something about the society or something like that, and I wanted to like explain my point of view and go into debates and stuff like that with my parents, with other people. But then I started to write, and I started a personal blog in Romanian language, and I realized that I influenced more people and I triggered more people. At one point, I wrote an article about religion and schizophrenia, and to attack religion because Romania is so religious, and it became like one of the first search results in Google. And I started to get lots of comments, people attacking me, and then I realized that it's easier for me to answer them in writing than if they would be like face to face, because face-to-face conversations are like ping pong. They give the ball to you and you have to give it back. You cannot just take a moment to reply more calmly, in a more calm way, in a relaxed way. And then I made TROM and I made books and so forth, and I realized that, like Jen was explaining, it could be easier. It could be easier to this indirect way if they come to you, because it means that they have a little bit of curiosity instead of you going at them. You don't go to a priest when he's in the church and trying to explain that religion, because it's a priest, it's in the church, he has so much to lose. It's like you're pulling him out of this matrix. Like it's not working like that, I think. So the more stuff that you do in this sense of writing and videos, maybe it's worth it like that. And because now I write books and make some videos sometimes, and I reach people like that, I don't feel that motivated to engage into conversations with other people. I can ignore them. I can be like, I don't really care if this guy who's a friend of mine doesn't get it. I don't care, because there are so many people who get it. I don't want to spend my time debating that's one guy. Instead, maybe I spend a few months writing a book that will change 10 guys. That's my personal thinking.
Completely agree, and I've also developed in that area. I would say I also used to be far more wanting to convince people and just always going for the argument and so on. And now I whenever people ask me a question, I don't necessarily engage unless I see that they're interested or unless they approach. Otherwise, I just use my motivation or my anger, frustration, whatever, to make a video or put my efforts in creatively. And having a creative outlet like writing or making videos or whatever else, programming, this and that, that I think that's a more effective way in manifesting your energy. into reaching more people.
I also think that you don't have to like stop yourself from being like that. If you have the opportunity and you want to engage into offline conversations with other people, you should do that. For me or for Seb or for others, maybe for me it's oversaturation because I get my fair share of comments online and emails and shit like that. So I put up with that. I don't want to put up in my offline world with more of that. No, it's enough. So, but for someone who maybe doesn't engage online with such things and they want to engage offline with friends and so forth, maybe you can also use the online materials, like Jen was saying. Use the online materials, and when they say, come on, man, this world is not so bad. Be like, okay, they look here, it's completely free. You can read it. It's like 1,000 pages long if you want. It's like, it's about this shit that happens in this world. I can show you so many documentaries for free on video on it, or stuff like that. You have some tools at your disposal in your battle.
And they have sources too, because that's another thing. People are like, well, you can't prove that. Well, yeah, actually, this is a very well sourced article or book that you can hit these links and check for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. See for yourself that, these are reputable sources, like the World Health Organization, whatever. You can't argue against that. These are facts. So
some people are going to argue against that, and I've seen that. They're like, yeah, you trust these big organizations because it's a big conspiracy there. And for those people, in my view, maybe I will try something, but I'm like, okay, I think there are other people in this world who deserve to hear what I have to say, not this guy, because they may not listen to you, such people.
Yeah, good points. I also wanted to touch on the subject of like social pressure or social, to uphold like the status quo, and how actually that pressure is like widely used to maintain like current power. And after like observing this so much of just like you talk about a new path and a new system, and sometimes you just feel like so much resistance, but like coming from such a deep place, and just like kind of narrations. And actually, I saw this meme that I really put it well together. It was like kind of had to do with the movie The Matrix and Mr. Smith. And it was like how everybody in the movie, like people walking around public, they could turn into Mr. Smith at any point, and they could try to stop you from doing. They would become part of like the public, and that they could turn up into anybody. And that was just kind of a funny observation, because after I saw that, I did have some conversations, and I was like, you know what? It's like the system has set it up so much with propaganda and the education, so that like everybody is just like these walking little protections of the status quo, and they get triggered and they'll kind of jump at you. I know it like it's planted because it goes against like their own well-being. But yeah, it's just like it's just interesting how well organized that is, and how that always plays out like that. So.
Interesting way to put it is like you see in people the embodiment of the society. Somehow like they transform into this kind of the default mode of the citizen. If this was a game, this was the default character in the game, like that represents the society. He has or she has the same kind of answers and the same kind of mentality, the same kinds of questions. If you look at them, I've seen people who I've seen once a video of Jack, and he said like, no one asked me any new question in the past 20 years. And I was like, maybe, okay. But now I start to realize, when I get people who send emails and stuff like that, they really are asking the same questions, like the exact same questions, and they have the same exact arguments. It's hard to hear something new. It really is.
Maybe you should make a department on Trump site with often asked questions.
FAQ.
He does.
We have an FAQ.
Yeah,
we have an FAQ there, but I don't put everything. Only those who submit there. But,
yeah. It's just amazing how willing people are to defend the system within any conversation, and just to watch them get triggered and then just like, it's like we all have to go through some sort of deconditioning. And then even us as a group, we know like we're highly still influenced and we're always continuously going through that process. But at least we're cognitive of it and we understand, question, why do we think the way that we do? You know, where did that come from? Where did we hear that? And, you know, for me personally, I kind of find it interesting and I like that challenge when that does come up. And there's been a few points in like the last few months that it does, and I was like, why do I hold that belief? And I was like, okay, who taught it to me? I was like, oh, state education. Have I looked at any other source besides that? No, but I've held that belief my whole adult life. But other people, it's very difficult for them to say that they're just like a product of this mass propaganda.
We also recommend a book for this discussion. I think it was the Reason and Logic one. That's the one that we recommended, because just to showcase that, of course, there is no like inborn reason for people. You cannot just reason and say that, okay, these things are wrong, these things are bad. You know, it's a stupid example, but I used to, when I was eating a banana, I was opening from one end instead of opening from the bigger end because it's easier, but I never crossed my mind. And then I saw a video on YouTube, like some guy opening from the other side, and I was like, what the fuck, you know? What the fuck? I was peeling a banana completely wrong the entire life. I never that even crossed my mind, that stupid shit, you know, or other stupid shit like that. And even these little things, you know, how can you realize like your way of thinking is wrong, or that society is that's how it should be, if you are not exposed to such information, you know? So that's why we recommend that book, Reason and Logic. And there are some really interesting examples there to showcase that. I think it was an example where they go into a tribe and they show them a movie on a projector, a big movie on a projector, and they were like confused because why do you film people so like close and their feet, and they had some criticism that I could never come up with because I'm used to cinema. I'm used to seeing like people like that. Or they said, why don't you film the entire human being? You only film from here to here and then from here to here. You don't have enough space, they said, something like that. You say this is the reasoning here. Same in this society, this is the reasoning. And we are fooled to people in society are somehow civilized or smarter than those people. We are not. Even I, you know, I have my own stupid maybe ideas about some shit, like all of us.
And it really is a lot of the part. The way that we think, a lot of the part just depends on what part of the country we're born in. And me and Ziad actually had a really similar situation with you and the banana. That I was talking to him on video chat, and I'm eating an avocado, and he's like, "What are you eating?" I'm like, "An avocado," and he's like, "Oh, awesome, avocado and sugar." And I was like, what? Sugar? I was just like, it just blew my, and I'm like, no, salt. And then his face was exactly like, disgusting, what? And it was just like, we laughing and we totally dove into the same conversation having. It was just like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. No reason, no logic. Well, if you want, we can go to some news, and because there are some interesting stuff to discuss there as well.
All right.
Or if you want, any of you, if you have anything to add to the social pressure, no pressure.
Going once. All right. The first one was the Al Jazeera talk on climate change. Is an economic overhaul needed?
Anyone here saw it? Because I can explain some stuff.
Yeah,
yeah, it was interesting.
I liked the thinking of that black woman from, he was like representing the African some organizations, because she was like you put the somehow like the blame on poor people, and they are suffering the most, and those big countries with the big like ideas to like restructure this society, this is not working. I was surprised to hear that from her. She said, it's not working to restructure. We need something completely new. It's not working because the incentive is there to fuck up this planet, with climate change. because other people were like, we need to reform, we need to put some laws, and she was like, no, this is not going to work. We need something completely new. That's what I really liked about that debate about climate change. And to see
I was really shocked to see that came from her, but the NASA scientist still believes that we can just tax oil and it's going to solve it. Like, and especially him of all people, because he's the first person to ever come out publicly and say, like in the 80s, that we have a huge climate issue, and he still has this really old way of thinking. It's really, I don't know.
To be honest, it's also a social pressure maybe for him as well, from because he has a reputation there in NASA, and I've seen this from other people who are very like so-called smart, and in the like even Carl Sagan. When Carl Sagan started to appear on TV and explain science, he got a lot of crap for that from his peers, and you can read about that, and you can even hear him saying that, because they said, "What the fuck? You are a scientist. You should stay here, doing science." Not going on TV and make your stupid cosmos and shit like that. But he had a huge influence on so many people. So is that peer pressure as well in such environments? Because you have a so-called reputation, and being a scientist is understood to be working on a problem, not being on TV and stuff like that. And same here, maybe this guy from NASA, maybe, I'm not saying that's the truth, but maybe he also may feel a pressure to say, you know what, this shitty capitalism is the problem. Because maybe he feels like his colleagues will put the pressure on him or see him in a very weird way.
Or maybe it's a story as with avocado, so he just doesn't see other solution.
Maybe, but at his age, I think he's heard of lots of ideas. But anyways, maybe he needs to peel the banana from the other end.
I think so.
What else we have?
The next one is coming to store shelves near you. The cameras that guess your age and gender.
And the funny way how they want to use it to show you better ads. If you took some baking, I don't know, soda, they will show you some cakes and stuff like that.
I find that almost even more intrusive than the online advertising, because it's in person and these people don't even know it's there. And it's pretty bad when Walmart CEOs think that this is intrusive, like they are questioning this technology.
Yeah, that's what is actually said in this article. It's a huge disadvantage of physical stores, that they cannot track so effectively, the purchasing habits of their customers. So that's why they've got this new invention.
They're tracking where your eyes, pupils are going and what you're looking at. And if they see you looking at, like, say, a tub of ice cream, and then you don't purchase it, but then you go up to the counter, that advertisement's going to pop up one last time to try to get
or maybe you will have discount, for this ice cream.
Advertising the depression medication all while you're walking through the store. I mean, it's just so.
And there is no ad blocker because it's offline, so you cannot avoid them.
Maybe you will use some ad blocker glasses.
Yeah, they actually have that. MIT was working on, or some guys were working on that, an AR headset that would like real-time block ads.
I'll give you the solution is.
The solution is and keep rolling from all sides.
The solution is astigmatism. I have astigmatism, so at night I don't see very well. Everything is quite blurry. And it's such a great ad blocker. I don't want to get surgery to fix that. If I go to stores or something like that, because of the light, I don't see quite well in the prices and the advertising. Or everything is like blur. I'm like, I don't need it. I don't need the perfect clear vision to see all of those small fucking prices. Fuck you, And I was like joking about this, but it's quite interesting sometimes.
Might be a couple blind people that want to get their eyes fixed, and you're like, listen, I would recommend staying blind.
Don't do it, man.
Don't do it.
The News Digest: Red and processed meat, DNA, fingerprints, targeted leukemia drugs, and CRISPR. Wow, that was
I think the title was something different. I put there. It was one of the news. What was it? It was one that's interesting. Yeah, I put it in the
consumption of red meat causes of cancer, mainly fingerprints, experimental blood analysis, new cancer drugs, gene editing,
I'm looking.
Oh,
at
Twitter accounts highlights from what's often missing from silent.
That's the one that I wanted to highlight, because I've seen this news. It's like it's a Twitter account. I love that. That only says two things in mice. So they take every kind of study. They are a bunch of doctors, as far as I understand, because there are so many studies like exercise make you feel like or will make you live longer or this and that. They put the news and they say in mice. Put news in mice so that you understand that this is study in mice. So that you put a real light to these fucked up studies that they are not fucked up studies, but they are presented in a fucked up way. Because people when see these big titles like this new drug is going to stop Alzheimer's disease, and these people on Twitter, they're like in mice, in mice, in mice, in mice. So it puts things in perspective so nicely with 2 words.
That's awesome.
I love that.
That's great. Cyber Chase and Citizen Science.
This is a positive news. I've seen how they made like a TV show for kids, to teach them mathematics and science overall. It's such an interesting thing. It's like what the rethinking education video and book. It was this idea of how to teach children about science through maybe cartoons. And one idea was I've seen from an artist to make superheroes that have the powers of chemical elements. Like one is hydrogen, one is oxygen, and their powers react with the other superheroes in a real way. So you also get something that's real from this kind of cartoon. And they are doing this with the PBS is doing a show for kids that is called like Cyber something.
Cyber
and
Chase.
It's based on and they get help from citizen scientists. So there are positive news in that sense. It's very interesting. I've seen one episode and it's interesting. Maybe I will start watching those cartoons.
Inventions that show why accessible tools matter for scientific discovery.
This was also from citizen scientists, I think.
Yeah.
They showed this, how citizen scientists are those people who are volunteers and they do all kinds of research and so forth, and what impact they have. Because they have done all kinds of tools and all kinds of discoveries. So it's not only like talk and talk about citizen scientists, it's also do and do. They do stuff. So this is the article. If anyone wants to read them, they are in the description of YouTube, for example.
The Pirate Bay lives on a decade after guilty verdicts.
What do you think about that, Cody?
I think that's fucking fantastic, and just shows that you're fighting. It's a cat and mouse game. It's like there's always going to be like a way to loophole, or somebody will take it up, or somebody will, It's such a gray area, the whole Pirate Bay thing, because now the thing that they got in trouble for, I believe, was having the actual torrent files accessible on their servers, but now they only point to magnet links. And it's just like you can't fight it. It's just silly. It makes me happy though to see stuff like this. Yes.
You too, Roma? Do you use Pirate Bay? Admit it.
Never.
Yeah, because it's a very interesting example of Pirate Bay, because Pirate Bay is the website that everyone tried to block for the past 10 plus years. Everyone, governments and internet companies, every fucking one. Somehow, Pirate Bay is still alive today and is one of the most visited websites on the internet, just to show you that laws and rules are like, fuck off,
Yeah,
to solve it.
The root problem is not being addressed there, and that's like, I guess, available content.
Yeah, sorry, I was a little delay with my connection, maybe.
What about now? Do you use Pirate Bay?
Yeah, of course I use Pirate Bay. I can't even survive here without Pirate Bay, actually. And that's interesting that we have the same situation here with Telegram right now, because our government just going crazy about the Telegram, and they try to, use enormous resources to block it out from Russia.
It's a messaging app, no?
Yeah, it's like messaging app, and it's for the first time, I don't know what the big deal with that, because it's just usual like a many of others messaging up. But in this time, I realized that they plan to run cryptocurrency by its own, and using the like its user base to just start with all of that.
Telegram?
Yeah, they plan to run like open network or something like that, and they're going to run with their coins like grams or something like that. It makes me realize that our government just don't want to use like they are afraid that every like payments and so on with all operations with money just go like in the black, in the gray at the Telegram, and no one just started to use banks or like other third parties to use the deals or something like that. And
no one will pay taxes.
Yeah, and just because of black payments, black salaries in Russia, it's a common situation. I think that's why they are just like a beasts trying to block it out from this. But in the same situation in the Pirate Bay, Telegram is still survive. I think it's like almost. Wait a minute! It's just more than a year already when I try to like block it out to ground, but it's still alive. I still using it, and it's no problem, because as we all can see, it's like technology versus humans, because technology always win in this situation. You can put a lot of resources, you can take a lot of men's and girls and trying to like just surf all the internet, try to find all the IP addresses they used and try to block them. But it's like a war without any end.
It's like China, because China too
Yeah,
has this great,
and Israel, I think, or Iran also.
Iran as well.
Yeah.
Because we recommended documentary there from VideoNet from Iran, I think it was. What was the documentary?
Everything Forbidden, Anything Possible.
Yeah, because even in that tribe where they have those very strict rules, and you can even get killed if you do some stupid thing. People are, even teenagers are like, they are breaking the law like every other teenager from any other tribe. Like they were making beer inside dorm rooms because they are not allowed to drink beer with alcohol, and they are making beer with alcohol inside dorm rooms in Iran. They do all kind of shit like that. It's a big black market there.
Yeah, they always find a way. It's like never stop game, like cat and mouse, like Cody said.
Can't keep up. Yep. Oh god. Last one. Mozilla's 2019 Internet Health Report.
Did you read it?
I did not.
They release this every year, like to analyze what's the state of the internet. And let me resume it for you. It's like a lot of crap. Not the report, but the internet. They're banning the increase in websites being banned and geo-blocked. It increased this kind of fucked up mentality and application of such technologies. That's the report here. If you want something that's pessimistic, read that report. If you want, it comes from Mozilla, so it doesn't come from us. Don't complain to us that we complain. Complain to Mozilla that they complain. So that was it. That was it.
That was the pressure.
That was the pressure. And to mention this, from starting next week, we may not do such TROM-Casts for about a month, but we may post here some videos because we have a meetup in May. Basically, almost all of us that you see here, and then others. We have a meetup in May, and we may not do these lives from there. So, but we will try to post some videos about our work. We want to focus on this trade-free concept, to build a trade-free.com website, .org actually, website, and let's see what happens. And yeah, basically, that's basically it. The rest.
So it was the last episode in this season, and I'm here for the last episode. That's kind of great.
Just in time.
See?
Yeah, before a huge break, but
that's right.
That's cool. Yeah, thanks for having me here today.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Yeah, I actually found myself like sitting here and smile constantly, and now it's a record on your YouTube, like I sitting and smiling. It's like
you smile live.
For me. Yeah, yeah. So actually, I'm like in constant agreement with all of you saying, and actually, some of you like mentioned a good point about maybe older people that are already in the system and tried, like when you try to talk to them about their situation, trying to like make their mindset wider about the problems and so on. Like I'm personally talking about my parents, for example. It's like it's always a big deal when you see that people understand what you're talking about. They are not stupid, they like possibly can agree with all of the points that you have about the situation, but the problem is and someone just pointed out that when you are spend all your life like in the living this kind of a way in this direction, it's very hard for people to like just tell all my life kind of shit. I spent all these years like doing wrong things. Yeah, you're absolutely right, man, and something like that. They just cannot accept that this situation, and that's what is hardest thing in the conversation with the people, because you just cannot break anything, or for example, from the other side, if people grew up with think that they can the only way to get all the wealth and money and stuff is just to do this like in this way, like be good at something, work a lot and so on. When they actually occasionally or not get their place in some government or so and get access to a lot of money and else, they just become, for us maybe it's like a bad person, but if you really think about it, it's most like they just do everything that they learn through all their life, like they didn't know like anything else, like any other ways, and this is also a problem because it's like create a never-end circle. People just grew up, they think in this way, go to some place where they actually can change something, but they just, because of all the life they like suffered and try to survive, they just
they project whatever they learn.
Yeah, and they maybe very angry for this world to just doing this shit, and I don't care about these people because yes, they are struggling like I am and like I did in the past, but I don't care. It's just nothing, because it's almost like this guy in this interview I posted and you guys watched today, like do all the stuff just to make your proof of your point, and that's all. Because I don't care about these people. I did maybe the same all my life, And look at me now. I'm just a cool guy with fancy suit and good tie and so on. And that's it. And that's a real problem. And so my point here is that it's great that maybe all the topics here that we discussed is just maybe obvious for all of us here, but it's and why I just always say that the TROM-Cast, it's like a huge breakthrough for all of us, because this is there are people who are just living in society, and we need to like do whatever we want, whatever we can, actually, to make people to understand this, how the things works. And actually it's all that needed right now, like Jack Fresco said. Maybe all the we can do is just to share the knowledge as much as possible. And if people can like join and accept that, it's cool. It's, if not, just move on with that. So,
and I think the TROM-Casts themselves, they're like a great way for both listening to such ideas that maybe are a bit cornered in the society, so you get to hear other people thinking the same way, and also to participate. If you have something to say, participate and you voice your views. You don't have to just comment there. Doesn't matter if you disagree with us. Actually, I love when people disagree. Come here. It's not like anyone will attack you. We want to hear from you. And how would you guys like summarize this? I would start by saying that this topic is like social pressure. Is neither good or bad. It depends entirely on the society we live in. At times it can be used for good, at times it can be used for bad, and it's something that we cannot escape. We can only manage it in a more smart way, depending what we have inside here and what we face in this society. That's what I would say. Any of you want to say something?
I think it's important to not let the pressure get to you and give up on these ideas, because that could be easy depending on your environment as well. So
yeah, don't build yourself a mental prison out of the social pressures, because that is extremely damaging, and it becomes a feedback loop where just having that invisible pressure on you all the time, and then it becomes that brainwashing, like Dima said. If it's good, you're then telling yourself that you can't be saying or maybe discussing these kind of things. So definitely being aware of that's a very highly a high and effective pressure on society.
And if you're in this situation anyway, I hope that you have alternatives. Very like difficult to not just not do it.
Yeah, and you have nothing to lose in a way. I mean, we're the underdog here at TROM to like a large extent. And I was listening to a Fresco lecture from the 70s or something, or the other day, and he was like, some people view the Venus Project or this type of thinking as a threat to society, but really we're the furthest thing away from a threat. You know, we don't sell shit or any of that, and you know, it's very not unlikely, but it's so far detached from society, so it's difficult for it to be a threat as of now. You know, in this early stage. So you know, you can just give it, you know, a shot and give it all you got, and whatever happens, happens. But I see it in a way as though there's nothing really to lose.
Is that it?
That's it.
Yeah, right.
Those some motivational words to close on, maybe.
Yep. So.
Anyone?
So. No. We won't let Dima say anything because it's going to be negative. So.
Yeah, I have something to say, but
mute
I'll be
him.
quiet.
Muted.
Mute him now, Cord.
Got it. I'm on it.
What?
Erikita, you want to say something? If you want to say something in the end, if you want to say something, if not, we can. Okay. Okay then.
All right.
Yeah, next week, as I said, we won't probably make it here because of other things.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we'll have
we'll
updates
see.
on
Exciting.
yeah, TROM site or Facebook. We'll have updates for sure.
Yep.
All right.
Okay then.
We'll see everyone soon.
Bye.
Bye.